Continuing Daf Chav Bet Amud Aleph 15 lines down, we're going to bring a proof according to Ravad that future Yush is considered Yush from now. Tashma. Chesed Amru. When did Chachamim say Haturem Shalom Da'at Trumatot Teruma? If somebody is separating Teruma for someone else's produce without his knowledge, it counts. They said, if someone else, if Shimon, Reuben under Shimon's field, and he gathered fruits without his permission, if the owner objects and says, what are you doing touching my stuff? And it obviously does not count. He doesn't want it to work. But if he doesn't object, it counts. How do you know if the owner approves? If the owner comes and finds him separating it, and tells him, go take the better ones. And that could go both ways. If you have people saying something, oh, you should have taken the better stuff, that could either go as literally, if you're doing that, take better ones, or it could be a sarcastic comment. And meanwhile, I don't want you touching my stuff in the first place. I know, why don't you take the best stuff while you're at it? So if the guy says take the better stuff, we have to look at it. If there is better stuff, it does count because he must have meant it legitimately. There's no better stuff, and this was the best stuff. And does not count. And therefore we look at it as if he was being sarcastic. If the owner gathered it, and added new teruma to the previous gathering, whether or not there was extra better produce or not, it counts because obviously the guy was adding to it. Now the Gemara doesn't explain the question from here. We said if better was found, it counts. Why? Because when he separated it, he didn't know about it. So therefore we see from here that eventual consent at the time of separating counts. And therefore to prove according to Rava that eventual eventual losing of hope will also count. Mar says, no, we can't compare. This case is Tamar Shliach, and therefore he already gave consent earlier. It makes sense additionally to explain it that right top, because why? If there was no Shliach at all, me have it to Truma wouldn't count as Truma in the first place, because the pasuk says V'ha'atem, says you, and Gam Atem. The says also you. The Rabbi Hachem to include your Shliach. Ma'atem Da'atem, just like you have to be with his Da'at. So too your Shliach has to do with your Da'at. So therefore, we can't be talking about a case where a guy went rogue and just started picking your Teruma. So therefore, how do we explain it right? You want to share Shliach, Mir Mashliach. Zil Trum, go take Truma. He didn't tell him what to take. And generally, when the guy separates Truma, he takes the average produce. This Shliach went and took the top tier produce, Uri's fruits. And the owner came and found him. Marlene told him, why don't you take the best stuff? If it's better stuff, it does count. If there's no better stuff, it does not count. It must have been sarcastic. Memar was a Rav Ashi. It was the Mari of Isaac. Memar was Rav Ashi came to the orchard of Mari. Their sharecropper, his partner. I used to share harvest the fruits, and he gets a portion. So the sharecropper brought out dates and pomegranates. He put it in front of them. Memar Rav Ashi ate. But Marzut did not eat. He's thinking maybe the sharecropper is sharing something that doesn't belong to him. It belongs to the owner. He didn't have consent. The owner came, Mari came and sat with them. I saying to the sharecropper, why don't you take from the better fruits? Mordechai still didn't eat. He didn't count that as an agreement. The Gemara says, one second. We know if there is better, then the Teruma counts, like we said by the case of Teruma. So over here also, the guy said, take better fruits for the rabbis. And we know that there is better fruits. So how come that's not considered consent? How come you don't eat the fruits? He said, no. When we said that concept of if there's better, it counts. If not. It only counts by teruma. He's doing a mitzvah, and that's something that he wants to do the best type of mitzvah with the best fruits. But regarding to the rabbis, he's embarrassed. Right? If you serve your mom's best food to the guest and your mom was saving it, she'd be like, oh, why don't you take something else out? Meanwhile, she's not happy with you. She's upset. Okay, not a proof. Now we're going to bring a proof according to Abayat. And we're going to bring it from Tum'ah. this comes up so far. I think we've had it once per every Masechah we did together so far, and that is in order to something food generally is not mikabel tumah. Food can't get to tumah unless it touches something seven liquids, including dew and water, etc. The only time it becomes capable to become tameh after touching these liquids, only if the owner wants the contact with those liquids to happen. So if it rained on it and he didn't want it, it does not become mikabel tumah. So tashma, we can bring a proof according to the ayah. If the dew was on top of the fruits that the guy had, v'samach, and he's happy that it became wet, bechiyutan, as part of the pasuk of water is touching it, and therefore it's now mikabel tumah, it can become tameh, even if it dries up. Now, but it became dried, even though he was happy that it had gotten wet, it's not considered mikabel tumah anymore. Tamamai, the reason why is because since it became clear that he's happy with it now, he was also satisfied while it was wet. And we see that it's not considered like wet and consent to it being moistened without his knowledge, and therefore it's a proof according to Abaye that if he doesn't have knowledge, it doesn't count. It says Shani Hatam, no, by the case of the Tum'ah. See, the pasuk says Ki Yiten. It's written as Ki Yiten, Yud Taf Nun. Ad Sheyiten, which sounds like that it has to be until the owner puts the liquid on himself. So it says, one second, the first case also, the owner didn't put it on. Gemara says, no, Hatam Kidera Papa, Papa has a question. Ktiv Ki Yiten, Vikarinan Ki Yutan. Right, there's the shuruk, the three dots. It's pronounced Yutan with Yutaf Nun. So why, which means it should be placed, not he shall place. So we're going to how can they both? Be'inan ki yutan, dumya ki iten. It has to be placed just like it can be placed by naturally, as similar to him putting it on. Magitin, the doctor's like a man puts it on physically with knowledge. Af ki yutan and so too. If the natural contact happens like by rain, also has to be with the owner's knowledge. Kashma is showing a different proof for Abaye. How do you know if a lost object got swept away by a river? To whenever finds it, the pasuk says, so shall you do for his donkey to return it. For his garment, anything your brother lost. That is lost from and you found it. Only thing that's lost to him, but everybody else can get it, has to be returned. That excludes the case of the flood. Is lost from him, and not everybody is accessible to get it. In the case of the Isur for the finder, and he has to return it, is the same thing to permit it to the finder. Just like the item is retar for the finder to keep it, it's permitted to him whether or not there's a siman or not. Always asur. So it's a proof according to Abaye that it's always asur whether or not the guy know whether or not we know the guy was me'ayesh, which shows us that because the owner did not know about it, even though he may be yush later because there's no siman, but because he doesn't know about it, there's no yush. Question against Rava, and the Gemara says that's a good question according to Rava, and therefore we posek 6 times throughout Shas. We've had a couple of them already by Kiddushin and Gitin. And these are the 6 cases, Ya'al, Kigam, each one stands for a different case. Otherwise, we were posek like Rava. Okay. Now that we know that Rava, we don't like Rava. Sorry, we cased the dates that we said that you can find, you can eat them. How do you eat them if we don't know if there's the Ush yet? We were posek like Abaye. Rashi says, since there's bugs and animals eating them, the owner already had Yush right away. What's the halacha by orphans though? Orphans can't have Yush. There's no chazakah that belongs to an orphan, and therefore you can't have it out of a chazakah. What if it's talking about a case where it's outside the orphan's tree? It's surrounded by walls, and therefore it shouldn't have blown over, and the guy did not have Yush. True, fair enough, and it would still be asur. It would be asur. Next part of the Mishnah. If you found small loaves in the street, it belongs to the finder. Amar Rabba says, even if it has siman, belongs to the finder. Alma Kasabar Rabba, we see from here, Rabba holds siman he'asu deres, something that has a siman, but is going to be trampled by passerby, which means that the siman might break. Law of siman is not considered siman, and you can keep it because the guy will think that the owner will think that it's the siman, then they get ripped apart. Rav says no. The only time you say you can keep the small of the bread when there's no siman. There's a siman. You have to announce it. Therefore, Rav holds siman has to have a siman. Even if you have a siman that's going to get crushed by passerby, it's good. It's considered a good siman, and you cannot keep it. Some people teach this in the Celebrata. Siman has a siman that's going to get trampled and obliterated. Rabba says, "Lo have a siman is not considered a good siman, and therefore you can keep it." Rabba says, "Have a siman, it is a good siman, and you cannot keep it." Mishnah, small of the bread in the Bishut Rabim you can keep. Bishut Yachid, if you find in private property, no tel machriz, you have to return it. Echidan was the case. Each lepus siman no siman. Bishut Yachid, my machriz. What are you announcing in Bishut Yachid in private property? Oh, I found what? How's the guy going to identify it? There is a siman, but then we see we see that you can keep it in Shutarim. Alma siman has to do law of siman. It must be that because the Shutarim and people are going to trample it, it's not a good siman. To Rava, questioning against Rava, who holds that it is a good siman. Where I said that Malach Rava, the don't let the siman, there's no siman at all. Udka Amar B'Shiyachid Mamachriz, there's no siman, and what are you announcing it in Rehut Yachid? You have to return it. How's the guy going to identify it? Simple answer. Machiz Makom. You said I found something on East 24th. And then the guy has to say what he lost. But Abba says, Makom lo have a siman. A place is not a good siman. That's not sufficient to return something to somebody. It's not good enough. The Ikmar the Rata says, Makom, a location. Rabba says, lo have a siman. Rabba Amar have a siman is a good siman. Tashma, bring a proof. Small loaves of bread in the public property belong to the finder. In private property, no til machriz, you can take it and announce it. But big loaves of bread, ben b'shtrabim, whether they were found in b'shtrabim, ben b'shtrayachid or in private property, no til machriz, to return it. How do each of them explain it? Why do large loaves of bread have to be returned? When it says Rabba Mitar Tamar b'siman, Rabba says you have to return it. Is a case of siman. But Rabba Mitar Tamar b'makom, and Rabba explained it because of location. What it means, Rabba Mitar Tamar b'siman. Rabba says that you have to is based off of siman. Therefore, small loaves in public property belong to the finder mishum de midrasa because then they get trampled, and therefore the siman then they get gone. And in you have to return it because the lom dust, it's not going to get crushed, and therefore in private property, it's not going to get crushed, and that's why you have to return it. But large loaves, whether it's in public or private property, you have to announce it because since they're tall, no one's going to step on it. And Rabba is explaining his answer because based off his opinion of location, which is what? Small loaves of bread in public property, you keep it because people will kick it around. And therefore, there's no way of identifying where it is. If you have a roll that keeps on rolling through, it started on East 23rd, you find it on East 29th. Okay, but the guy's going to give up because he can't identify the location because it moved around. You have to announce it in private property because the Loman Kasha is not getting moved around. Therefore, he can identify it. The large breads, whether it's private or public property, you have to announce. Because they're heavy, they're not moving around. Tashma, baker's loaves, you can keep it, but it sounds like regular homemade breads. Announce it. Why do you have to return homemade breads? Since there's siman on each person's loaves of bread, homemade bread, you can recognize it. Each person makes the bread the same way, their own way. With Loshna, sounds like there's make a difference whether or not public or private property. But the Machriz always have to announce it. Alma was even here. Siman has only the rest, have a siman, kiss it about. Seemingly, if you have a siman, that's even though it's going to stay in public property, which can be trampled, you still have to return it. Amar Rabba says no. Hatam over there, over there, people may not pass by the food on the ground and leave it there. So therefore, it won't get trampled and crushed. Therefore, the siman will stay. But Goyim may kick it and step on it. or take it. No, I said, no, Gentiles goyim, they're scared of food that's unclaimed because they think of witchcraft. People might put spells on it. But maybe the dogs and animals might eat it and destroy the siman. Mar says no, but there's no animals walking around. Therefore, if you find homemade loaves, you have to announce it. I'll stop here, Baruch Adon, men.